Okay, so the Red Komodo X is now $3,000 off. And I think, as far as I understand, that's a permanent price drop. It's not like a temporary sale like we saw earlier this year with the Blackmagic Cinema Camera 6K full frame. I think this is a permanent price drop. So it's now $7,000 instead of $10,000. Now, obviously, this is a Stormtrooper model, so I obviously paid full price for it. But I am not at all bent out of shape that this camera is now $3,000 less, because when I purchase a camera, or really any equipment, I go into it thinking like in a year, this could be, they could cut the price by this by 50%. And if I'm okay with that, then I make the purchase. If I'm not okay with that, then I don't purchase it, and maybe I just go to the used market or something like that. So if you just recently purchased a Red Komodo X, you know, if you purchased one like the last like week or two, maybe call whoever you bought it from and see if they would honor the new price. They may not, I don't know. But if you bought one in the last 6 to 8 months or whatever, you just shouldn't be that bent out of shape, because it's not automatically a 30% less of a camera. It's still the same Red Komodo X that you bought, and you obviously bought it when you did because it filled a production need or something like that. So if you did, just continue using it, because it's still a fantastic camera. Now, if you bought it for resale value in the future and you're really bent out of shape about that, then I hate to break it to you, but that was just a poor financial decision, because cameras and tech and all that stuff like devalues all the time. So that shouldn't really come as a surprise to anybody. So that's kind of harsh, but that's just the reality of cameras and tech. So just keep using that camera like you've been using it. But if you are now looking to get into the Red ecosystem and maybe even eyeing the Komodo X, I think this is a really good time, obviously, now to pick one up, because, well, if you had the cash for it beforehand, well, then now you can either allocate that difference to maybe the DSMC3 monitor, or just put that aside for something else down the road, or an emergency fund, or whatever the case may be. Now, the $3,000 price drop, we're at $7,000 US now for the Red Komodo X. And that kind of begs the question, like, is this the best camera at that price point? And I would say no. And yes, it just kind of depends on your needs and workflow. Like, I see a lot of people, and I've heard this like theory that they cut the price to compete with the C400. And of course, like, a lot of people just think like, oh, this is the money I have, what camera should I get? Which I think is the wrong approach to purchasing a camera. You have to look at like what the camera provides, and does it fit your production and your workflow needs? And then you make the decision based off of your budget. And in my opinion, the C400 and the Red Komodo X couldn't be more different as camera systems. Like the Red Komodo X is a great owner-op camera, but you know, it lacks the things like internal NDs, a full-frame sensor, really great low light, built-in XLR, really lightweight compressed codecs for long-form stuff and all that. Like, obviously, like Red R3D ELQ is pretty compressed, but you know, like something like an H265 codec for long form stuff is really good. Whereas the Red Komodo X, like, you can add stuff on to get XLR and like Genlock and whatever. But I just, like, in my opinion, they're just two different camera systems for two different workflows. So like, if I were shopping for a camera, I wouldn't be looking at a Red Komodo X and a C400, even though that they're priced pretty similarly. The C400, even though it's $1,000 more, may be twice the camera to somebody than the Komodo X, because it fits their workflow and their needs much better than the Red Komodo X. And then at the same, on the flip side of that, there might be folks that need a Komodo X, whether they want the global shutter or the R3D workflow, or maybe you already have a V-Raptor or an existing Komodo X in your kit and you're looking to add another Komodo X. Obviously, the Komodo X is going to be a much better purchase than a Canon C400. So is it the best camera in that price point? I think it just kind of depends on what your needs are. So just because it's now $3,000 less than it was, doesn't necessarily, in my opinion, still really compete with like an FX6 or a C400 or something like that, just because I just think they're like different tools for different jobs. So that's just my own opinion. I mean, I think obviously price is a very big factor to consider, but there are so many other things to consider when purchasing a camera, and price shouldn't be the only thing. In fact, price should be lower on the list, because like if image is like just all that you're after, I think Blackmagic cameras would probably be like one of the best purchases ever, because like price per image, the Blackmagic cameras look amazing. Like I use the cinema camera 6K full frame all the time with my Komodo X, and there's a lot of times where I prefer the image of the cinema camera over the Komodo X. And a lot of times I'll grab the cinema camera 6K over the Komodo X for certain jobs, just because it's just like the better camera for the job. Now, this is obviously just one dude on the internet's opinion on the matter. Everyone's gonna have different opinions, and that's really great. There's no like wrong opinion about this, but like I'm just taking this from the perspective of my workflow and my career. Like I do this for a living, not YouTube. I freelance and do production for a living in like the commercial space, and that's just kind of my perspective on this price drop in cameras and all that kind of stuff. So obviously, you know, do your own research. I have quite a bit of content on the Komodo X on this channel that may or may not help you decide if the Komodo X is the right camera for you and your workflow. And there's tons of other content out there as well. So don't just look at my channel, look at everybody else's stuff, look at specs, go rent the camera and see if it works for you. And if it does fit your workflow, then go out and purchase it, because my understanding is this is a permanent price drop. This isn't just a fire sale. So you have time to decide if this camera does in fact fit your workflow and is a better fit than like the Canon C400 or like an FX6 or something like that. Now, I heard a lot of people saying like, oh, they cut the price to compete with the Canon C400, which obviously heard my opinion on that. But I also have another theory, and again, this is all purely speculation. Like only the folks at Nikon or Red in like operations and strategy really know the reason for the price cut. But my theory is that they're just kind of clearing inventory out and going to start working on a Z-mount Komodo and Komodo X, or just a Z-mount Komodo X. I'm pretty confident that the Komodo X is a very, very good selling camera for Red. So moving it to the Z-mount would make more sense, because Red is owned by Nikon, and it is kind of interesting to see a Nikon-owned company use the Canon RF mount. Obviously, it's because they acquired Red, but you would think in the future they would want to use their own mount on the camera. So my theory is maybe they're already working on a Z-mount Komodo X, and they're moving the Komodo X RF mounts and the Komodo RF mounts. Maybe they're phasing those out. I don't know. It's purely speculation. Only the folks at Red and Nikon really know the answer to that. But I know that would make a lot of people really excited if a Z-mount Komodo X came out, because you can adapt even more lenses to that, and that might also help push sales of like the Nikon mirrorless cameras, especially if they put R3D in their mirrorless cameras. So anyways, that's kind of my thoughts on it. If by the end of this video you're still wanting to get a Red Komodo X, I will leave an affiliate link down below. It's not a huge commission, but it does definitely help keep this channel chugging along. So anyways, that's pretty much all I have for this video. It's just kind of more of like a ramble on about the Komodo X price drop and my opinion that's worth like nothing, and put it on the internet for some reason. So yeah, thanks for checking out this video. I'll see you down in the comments, but just be nice. Don't like, all cameras are good, so let's not go down that rabbit hole. If you do, just be nice. So anyways, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the comments. Peace.